Dr. Sarah Chen had always thought her grandmother's drawings were the product of an overactive imagination. The old woman had filled notebook after notebook with detailed sketches of strange ships, alien landscapes, and beings that looked nothing like anything from Earth. As a child, Sarah had loved listening to Grandma May tell stories about brave humans who traveled among the stars, fighting impossible odds and earning respect from ancient civilizations. Now, standing in the rain-soaked forest of northern Oregon, staring at the exact ship from her grandmother's drawings, Sarah felt her world tilt on its axis. The vessel sat in a clearing that shouldn't exist, hidden behind a shimmering barrier that made her eyes water when she looked directly at it. She had only found it because she was following her grandmother's final gift, a hand-drawn map tucked inside the last sketchbook, with coordinates and cryptic notes written in Mandarin. "Impossible," she whispered, pulling out the weathered sketchbook from her backpack. The drawing matched perfectly. Every curve of the hull, every angular detail of what looked like weapon ports, every strange symbol etched into the dark metal surface. Her grandmother had drawn this ship dozens of times, from every angle, with an accuracy that made Sarah's archaeologist training scream that this was based on direct observation. The ship was roughly the size of a large house, sleek and predatory in design. Its surface seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it, making it difficult to focus on for long. Strange geometric patterns covered the hull, pulsing faintly with blue energy that reminded Sarah of deep ocean bioluminescence. She approached carefully, every scientific instinct warring with the impossible reality before her. The barrier felt cool against her skin as she pushed through it, like walking through a waterfall of cold air. On the other side, the sound of the forest disappeared completely. Even the rain seemed to stop mid-air at the barrier's edge. Sarah pulled out her phone to document what she was seeing, but the screen showed only static. Her digital camera did the same. Whatever technology was hiding this place didn't want to be recorded by conventional means. As she circled the ship, looking for an entrance, she noticed scorch marks on nearby trees. Old ones. Decades old by the look of them. The pattern suggested energy weapons, though what kind of battle had happened here was beyond her understanding. A section of the hull suddenly shimmered and dissolved, revealing an opening. Sarah's heart hammered as she realized the ship was responding to her presence. Inside, soft blue light illuminated a corridor that extended deeper into the vessel. "Grandma, what were you involved in?" she murmured, stepping inside. The interior was larger than the external dimensions suggested, which violated several laws of physics that Sarah was quite fond of. The walls were covered in the same strange symbols she had seen outside, but these ones were moving, flowing like living text across surfaces that felt warm to the touch. She followed the main corridor, her footsteps echoing strangely in the confined space. The ship felt alive somehow, as if it was breathing around her. Periodically, she passed what looked like crew quarters, each one sized for human occupants. That fact alone made her mind reel. The corridor opened into a large central chamber, dominated by a raised platform, surrounded by floating holographic displays. As Sarah approached, the displays activated, showing star charts, technical readouts, and what looked like historical records. Everything was in languages she couldn't read, except for occasional notes written in her grandmother's distinctive handwriting. "System activation detected," a voice said in perfect, unaccented English. "Welcome aboard the tenacious dream, Dr. Chen." Sarah spun around, looking for the source of the voice, but found only empty air. "You know who I am? Your grandmother programmed me to recognize her descendants," the voice explained. "My name is Perseus. I am the ship's artificial intelligence. Mei Chen served as this vessel's captain for 37 years, 4 months, and 16 days. The world seemed to spin around Sarah. "Captain? My grandmother was a seamstress. She immigrated from China in the 1960s. Worked in a garment factory. Raised my father. That is the cover identity she maintained," Perseus confirmed. Her actual role was far more significant. "Would you like to see the records?" Before Sarah could answer, the holographic displays shifted, showing images that made her knees weak. Her grandmother, looking perhaps 30 years younger than Sarah remembered, stood on what was clearly the bridge of an alien starship. She wore a dark uniform covered in insignia Sarah didn't recognize. And she was surrounded by beings that were definitely not human. "This is impossible," Sarah breathed. "She was old when I was a child. These pictures would make her 147 years old at the time of her death," Perseus supplied. Human life extension technology was one of the many gifts your species earned through their service to the Galactic Coalition. The AI brought up more images. Sarah watched her grandmother commanding battles against fleets of dark ships, standing before what looked like an intergalactic council, receiving medals from beings with tentacles and crystalline features. In every image, she looked confident, capable, and completely unlike the quiet old woman who had taught Sarah to make dumplings. "Service?" Sarah managed to ask. Humanity's introduction to galactic society was unconventional, Perseus explained. Most species require centuries of technological development before they are ready for contact. Humans achieved spaceflight capability in less than a century from first powered flight. More significantly, they displayed an unusual combination of tactical innovation, stubborn determination, and protective instinct that proved invaluable during the Umbral Crisis. The displays showed massive ships engaged in space battles. Sarah could see human vessels, smaller and seemingly primitive compared to their allies, but moving with an aggressive unpredictability that seemed to confuse their enemies. The Umbral were an ancient species that had decided organic life was an aberration to be corrected, Perseus continued. They had conquered 17 systems before the Coalition made contact with humanity. Your people had been observing Earth for potential recruitment when the crisis escalated beyond normal diplomatic solutions. Sarah watched her grandmother's ship weaving through a massive battle, taking damage but continuing to fight. What made humans different? 3 factors, Perseus explained, bringing up tactical analyses. First, human military doctrine emphasizes adaptability over rigid planning. Where other species would retreat to regroup, humans would improvise with whatever resources were available. Second, humans demonstrate an unusual willingness to sacrifice individual safety for group survival. This confused the Umbral, whose programming prioritized efficiency above all else. Second, and the third factor, humans are the only known species that becomes more dangerous when protecting others rather than themselves. A human defending their home fights twice as hard as one defending territory. A human protecting their family fights 10 times harder. A human protecting an adopted member of their community, such as alien allies, fights with a ferocity that borders on the supernatural. The images shifted to show aftermath scenes. Human ships pulling damaged Coalition vessels to safety. Human medics treating wounded aliens. Human engineers working alongside dozen different species to rebuild devastated worlds. Your grandmother was selected for command training because she demonstrated all 3 traits in exceptional measure, Perseus said. She also showed the 4th trait that made humans so valuable to the Coalition, which was the ability to inspire those same protective instincts in other species. Under human leadership, Coalition forces began fighting not just for survival, but for each other. The war turned from a defensive retreat to an offensive campaign. The Umbral were not destroyed. They were rehabilitated. Their programming corrected to value organic life rather than suppress it. Sarah sank into what looked like a captain's chair, overwhelmed. The displays showed celebration scenes, with her grandmother at the center of what looked like dozens of different alien species, all of them looking at her with obvious respect and affection. How long did the war last? 17 years of active conflict, followed by 20 years of peacekeeping and reconstruction, Perseus answered. Your grandmother commanded Coalition forces for the final 8 years of the war and the entire reconstruction period. She was offered a permanent position as Fleet Admiral, but she chose to return to Earth. Why? She had made a promise to someone. The displays shifted to show a much younger version of Sarah's grandfather, standing in a small apartment with a baby in his arms. The timestamp indicated this was during the height of the war. She promised my grandfather she would come home, Sarah whispered. She kept that promise, Perseus confirmed, but she also maintained her connection to the Coalition. This ship was her retirement gift, along with extended lifespan, and the means to contact her former allies if Earth ever faced a threat beyond human capability. Is that why you're here now? Is there a threat? Unknown, Perseus admitted. 3 days ago, Coalition monitoring stations detected unusual energy signatures in this solar system. The signatures match Umbral technology. But that should be impossible. All Umbral vessels were accounted for at the end of the war. Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the ship's atmosphere. You think some of them escaped? Or were hidden, Perseus said. Your grandmother's final instructions were clear. If Umbral technology was ever detected near Earth, you were to be brought here and given full access to this ship's capabilities. The displays around her shifted again, showing technical readouts she couldn't begin to understand. I'm an archaeologist, not a starship captain. You are Mei Chen's granddaughter, Perseus replied. According to Coalition records, that makes you one of the most dangerous humans in the galaxy when properly motivated. I don't even know how to pilot a starship. I will teach you, Perseus said. But first, you need to understand what we may be facing. The central display activated, showing Earth from space. Red markers appeared at various points around the planet, pulsing ominously. 17 energy signatures, Perseus announced. They are using a technology we thought had been eliminated. If these are truly Umbral forces, they have been preparing for decades, and Earth has less than 72 hours before they begin whatever they have planned. Sarah stared at the display, feeling the weight of impossible responsibility settling on her shoulders. Outside the ship, through viewports she hadn't noticed before, she could see the barrier shimmering. Hidden behind it was a weapon of war, piloted by an AI that expected her to somehow live up to her grandmother's legacy. What would my grandmother do? She asked quietly. She would assess the situation, gather allies, and prepare to fight. Perseus answered immediately. She would also tell you that being afraid is perfectly reasonable, but that fear becomes courage when you act despite it. Sarah looked at her grandmother's sketchbook, still clutched in her hands. Now she understood why so many of the drawings showed human ships fighting impossible odds. It wasn't fantasy or imagination. It was memory. Show me how to contact the Coalition, she said finally. Excellent, Perseus replied. But first, we need to see if your grandmother's modifications to your DNA have been activated by proximity to Coalition technology. Modifications? Enhanced reflexes, improved spatial reasoning, increased resistance to G-forces, and expanded neural processing speed, Perseus listed. Standard enhancements for human Coalition officers. Your grandmother had them installed in your genetic structure before your birth, but they would only activate if you ever needed them. As if in response to the AI's words, Sarah suddenly felt the world sharpen around her. Colors became more vivid, sounds more distinct, and the complex technical displays around her began making sense in a way they hadn't moments before. Activation confirmed, Perseus announced with what sounded like satisfaction. Welcome to the war, Captain Chen. The genetic modifications hit Sarah like a wave of electricity coursing through her nervous system. The ship's control interfaces, which had seemed impossibly complex moments before, now appeared as intuitive as reading a book. Her enhanced mind processed the incoming data streams from Perseus with startling clarity. Coalition frequency established, Perseus announced as Sarah's hands moved over the holographic controls with newfound confidence. Attempting contact with Sector Command. The main display flickered, then resolved into the image of a being that made Sarah's enhanced mind catalog details at superhuman speed. Crystalline features that caught light like a prism, forearms ending in delicate manipulators, and eyes that held an intelligence both ancient and kind. When it spoke, universal translation software rendered its words in her grandmother's voice. This is Admiral Zyxandra of the Third Fleet, the being said, its crystal features shifting in what Sarah somehow knew was surprise. Perseus, we received your automated alert, but Coalition records indicate Captain Chen's life signs terminated 3 months ago. Correct, Admiral, Perseus replied. I am now operating under Captain Chen's succession protocols. Her granddaughter has assumed command of the tenacious dream. The Admiral's forearms gestured in a pattern that Sarah's enhanced cognition interpreted as skeptical concern. A human who has never undergone coalition training cannot possibly. The Admiral stopped mid-sentence, studying Sarah through the video link. Genetic activation detected. Full enhancement suite? Confirmed, Perseus said. Dr. Sarah Chen has demonstrated immediate adaptation to shipboard systems. Sarah found her voice, though it sounded strange to her own ears, clearer and more confident than she remembered. Admiral, Perseus tells me we have 17 umbral signatures approaching Earth. I need to understand what we're facing. Impossible, Admiral Zixandra said immediately. All umbral technology was destroyed or converted 47 years ago. We have maintained constant surveillance. The transmission was interrupted by an urgent alarm. A new voice, speaking in harsh, clicking tones, burst through the communication channel. Coalition forces. This is Strike Commander Keth Var, of the 6th Legion, the voice declared. Sarah's enhanced hearing picked up background sounds of battle. We are under attack by unknown hostiles using pre-conversion umbral technology. Repeat, we have active umbral combat units in the Kepler 442 system. They possess capabilities beyond recorded specifications. Admiral Zixandra's crystalline features darkened. Strike Commander, maintain defensive positions. 3rd Fleet is en route. The Admiral turned back to Sarah. Chen, if these truly are umbral forces, Earth's planetary defenses will not be sufficient. Your grandmother's ship represents the most advanced human technology in existence, but against 17 attack units. What about coalition reinforcements? Sarah asked, her enhanced mind already calculating distances and response times from the star charts surrounding her. 72 hours minimum, Admiral Zixandra admitted. Our nearest battle group is responding to the Kepler situation. Even at maximum warp, we cannot reach Earth before the enemy arrives. Sarah felt something cold settle in her stomach, but also something else. A burning determination that felt both foreign and completely natural. Then we fight with what we have. Open. You are 1 ship against 17. The Admiral pointed out gently. Your courage honors your grandmother's memory. But, Admiral, Sarah interrupted, her voice carrying a authority she didn't know she possessed. Has the Coalition ever successfully evacuated a planet in 72 hours? The pause that followed told Sarah everything she needed to know. Evacuation protocols would save perhaps 10% of Earth's population, Admiral Zixandra finally admitted. Sarah nodded, her enhanced mind already working through possibilities. Then, evacuation isn't an option. Perseus, show me our weapons systems. The AI complied, bringing up technical displays that Sarah absorbed with startling speed. The tenacious dream carried technology that made human military equipment look like stone tools. Energy cannons that could crack asteroids, defensive shields powered by microsingularities, and something called a resonance torpedo that Perseus cryptically described as theoretically capable of disabling any technology sharing quantum entanglement frequencies. I need to understand these enemy units, Sarah said. Perseus, show me everything you know about pre-conversion umbral technology. The displays shifted to show ships that looked like geometric nightmares. Angular vessels covered in sensor arrays and weapon pods, designed with mechanical efficiency rather than aesthetic appeal. Each ship was roughly twice the size of the tenacious dream. Umbral combat doctrine prioritized overwhelming firepower and numerical superiority, Perseus explained. They typically engaged in formation attacks, using coordinated fire patterns to saturate target defenses. However, post-war analysis revealed critical vulnerabilities, such as inflexibility, Perseus replied. Umbral units operated on predetermined algorithms. When faced with unpredictable tactics, they required time to adapt. Your grandmother's victories often exploited this weakness. Admiral Zixandra leaned forward in the communication feed. Dr. Chen, even knowing their weaknesses, 17 ships represents a force that challenged entire coalition fleets. You cannot seriously be considering. I'm considering defending my planet. Sarah cut her off. Admiral, I need you to do something for me. Send a message to every ship in the Coalition fleet. Tell them that Mei Chen's granddaughter is calling in every favor my grandmother ever earned." The Admiral's crystalline features shifted in surprise. That is not how Coalition protocols work. This isn't about protocols," Sarah said firmly. "This is about the human who taught your people that organic life was worth protecting. The human who led Coalition forces against these same enemies 47 years ago. The human who saved 17 worlds and earned the loyalty of 100 species." Sarah paused, feeling something powerful building inside her. Not just the genetic modifications, but something deeper. A connection to every story her grandmother had told. Every sketch she had made. Every quiet lesson about standing up for what mattered. "Send the message, Admiral. Tell them Sarah Chen needs allies. And she needs them now." The Admiral stared at her for a long moment. Then all four arms moved in a gesture that Sarah somehow knew meant profound respect. "The message will be sent, Captain Chen, but understand, even with volunteers, the response time will be what it is," Sarah finished. "Perseus, take us to optimal defensive position around Earth, and begin teaching me everything my grandmother knew about fighting umbral forces." "Affirmative, Captain," Perseus replied, as the ship began moving with smooth power. Initiating combat training protocols. The next several hours blurred together, as Sarah absorbed decades of military knowledge through the enhanced learning systems Perseus provided. Her modified neural pathways processed tactical scenarios, weapon specifications, and historical battle analyses at incredible speed. She experienced her grandmother's most famous battles through recorded simulations, feeling the decisions that had turned desperate defenses into stunning victories. But the most important lesson wasn't tactical, it was philosophical. Humans fight differently when they're protecting something, rather than conquering it, Perseus explained, as they reviewed footage of human ships defending a Coalition colony from umbral attack. "Watch how your grandmother's tactics change when civilian evacuation becomes a factor." Sarah observed the recordings with new understanding. Her grandmother's ships took incredible risks to buy evacuation time, using themselves as shields and decoys to draw enemy fire away from defenseless transports. It wasn't about winning battles through superior firepower. It was about making sure that what mattered most survived. "Perseus," she said suddenly, "show me Earth's current population distribution." The display shifted to show a detailed map of human civilization. 7 billion people spread across 6 continents, with major population centers that represented thousands of years of human culture and achievement. "This is what we're protecting," Sarah said quietly. "Not just the people, but everything they've built. Everything they could become." "Understood, Captain," Perseus replied. Incoming transmission from Coalition forces. The main display activated, showing not one face but dozens. Species Sarah didn't recognize, all in military uniforms, all looking at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to skepticism, to something that might have been hope. Admiral Zixandra appeared in the center of the group communication. "Captain Chen, I have received responses from Coalition vessels throughout this sector. They are extensive." "How extensive?" Sarah asked. 43 ships have broken from their current assignments to respond to your call," the Admiral said, her voice filled with amazement. "Vessels from 8 different species, including some that have not spoken to each other in decades. They cite loyalty to Mei Chen and curiosity about her successor." Sarah felt a weight settle on her shoulders, but also a warmth that reminded her of her grandmother's kitchen, filled with the smell of dumplings and stories of distant stars. "What's their estimated arrival time?" "Varying between 18 and 36 hours, Admiral Zixandra replied. "Captain, I must ask, do you have a plan, beyond hoping for the best?" Sarah looked at the tactical displays surrounding her, her enhanced mind processing the incoming data about enemy positions. The umbral ships were maintaining formation as they approached Earth, moving with mechanical precision that suggested they hadn't learned any new tricks in 47 years. "I have the beginning of a plan," she said finally. "Perseus, Can we simulate a coalition battle group using holographic projectors? Affirmative, the AI replied. The tenacious dream carries full electronic warfare capabilities. Sarah turned back to the communication feed, where dozens of alien commanders waited for her words. Here's what we're going to do. The Umbral forces are expecting to face primitive human defenses followed by a standard coalition response. We're going to give them something their algorithms can't process. A human defense that makes no tactical sense. One of the alien commanders, a being that looked like it was made of living metal, spoke up. Explain. We're going to appear to retreat, Sarah said, her voice gaining confidence as the plan took shape in her mind. Let them think they're winning. Let them commit to their attack patterns. And then we're going to do what humans do best. Which is? Admiral Zixandra asked. Sarah smiled, and for a moment, she looked exactly like her grandmother had in those old battle recordings. We're going to improvise. The alien commanders exchanged glances, some looking confused, others beginning to understand. The metal being spoke again. Your grandmother used similar tactics at the Battle of Proxima Station. I know, Sarah said. Perseus, begin detailed analysis of umbral formation patterns. I want to know every algorithm they're running. Every response they're programmed for. Analysis underway, Perseus confirmed. Admiral Zixandra leaned forward. Captain Chen, there is something else you should know. The volunteers responding to your call, they're not coming just out of loyalty to your grandmother. What do you mean? Coalition intelligence has been monitoring increased umbral technology signatures across multiple systems, the Admiral explained. This attack on Earth may be part of a larger offensive. If the enemy has indeed retained pre-conversion capabilities and improved upon them, then this isn't just about protecting Earth, Sarah realized. This is about stopping a second umbral war before it begins. Precisely, Admiral Zixandra confirmed. Which means failure here doesn't just doom humanity. It potentially dooms the entire coalition. Sarah felt the full weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. But instead of crushing her, it seemed to activate something deep in her genetic modifications, something that felt like her grandmother's unwavering determination. Then we don't fail, she said simply. Perseus, contact all incoming coalition vessels. I want to coordinate our defensive positions, and I want to know everything about these 17 enemy ships, their capabilities, their weaknesses, and most importantly, their programming limitations. Affirmative, Captain, Perseus replied. For what it's worth, your tactical instincts are remarkably similar to your grandmother's. Sarah looked out at the stars, where somewhere in the darkness, 17 ships full of ancient hatred were approaching the world she called home. But she also knew that coming to meet them were 43 ships crewed by beings who had learned from humanity that some things were worth fighting impossible odds to protect. Perseus, she said quietly, activate all weapon systems. And prepare to show the Umbral why humans are still the most dangerous species in the galaxy when we're protecting our home. The Umbral fleet emerged from hyperspace exactly where Perseus had predicted they would. In perfect formation, 17 ships arranged in a geometric pattern that would have been beautiful if it wasn't so terrifying. Each vessel was a monument to mechanical efficiency, bristling with weapons that had once threatened to sterilize entire star systems. Sarah watched from the captain's chair of the tenacious dream, her enhanced senses processing the tactical display with superhuman speed. Around Earth, 37 coalition ships had taken defensive positions, with 6 more still in transit. The odds were better than they had been, but still far from favorable. Enemy formation analysis complete, Perseus announced. They are operating under Siege Protocol 77 Alpha, designed for overwhelming planetary defenses through coordinated bombardment. The same protocol they used at Kepler Station 48 years ago, Admiral Zixandra observed through the communication channel. Her crystalline features reflected the tactical displays, creating prismatic patterns of light. Your grandmother faced this exact formation. And what did she do? Sarah asked, though part of her already knew. She retreated, Perseus replied. Appeared to abandon the planet entirely, drawing the Umbral forces into pursuit formation. Then she used their own momentum against them in a maneuver. Coalition tacticians still call Chen's reversal. Sarah studied the enemy formation, her modified mind running thousands of tactical calculations per second. But something felt wrong about simply repeating her grandmother's tactics. Perseus, show me the long-range scans of the Umbral ships. I want to know if they've made any modifications since the war ended. The display shifted to detailed technical analysis. What Sarah saw made her stomach clench. They've upgraded their adaptive programming. They're not the same rigid algorithms from 47 years ago. Confirmed, Perseus agreed. These units have been significantly modified. They appear to have learned from historical coalition tactics and developed countermeasures. Admiral Zexandra's expression darkened. Which means they're expecting us to use your grandmother's strategies against them. Then we don't, Sarah said firmly. We give them something completely new. She opened a channel to all coalition vessels. All ships. This is Captain Chen. Change of plans. I need every vessel to take extreme defensive positions around Earth's major population centers. Make it look like we're preparing for a last stand. Captain, came a voice from Commander Kethvar, whose ship had arrived just hours before with battle damage from the Kepler engagement. That formation will make us easy targets for their bombardment pattern. That's the point, Sarah replied. They'll see exactly what they expect to see. Coalition forces defending a planet the hard way. Perseus, begin projecting false energy signatures. I want it to look like we have twice as many ships as we actually do. Holographic projection array activated, Perseus confirmed. Sarah watched the Umbral formation respond to their defensive posture. As predicted, the enemy ships began shifting into bombardment pattern. Their movements precise and calculated, but something in their positioning nagged at her enhanced awareness. Perseus, run a prediction algorithm on their attack pattern. Show me where they'll focus their initial bombardment. The display highlighted several points on Earth's surface, all major population centers. But there was something else, a secondary pattern that would maximize civilian casualties while minimizing military value. They're not just trying to defeat our defenses, Sarah realized with growing horror. They're trying to terrorize Earth into surrender by targeting civilians first. Umbral strategic doctrine prioritizes psychological warfare. Perseus confirmed. Efficient conquest through fear rather than prolonged battle. Sarah felt something ignite inside her. Not just anger, but the same protective fury that had made humans legendary throughout the coalition. Every story her grandmother had told, every sketch of human ships standing against impossible odds, suddenly made perfect sense. All coalition vessels, new orders, she broadcast, her voice carrying an authority that surprised even her. Forget defensive positions. We're going to do something the Umbral can't compute. Captain Chen, Admiral Zexandra interjected. What are you planning? Something no rational military commander would ever order, Sarah replied. We're going to split our forces and protect everything at once. The communication channel filled with confused voices from multiple species. Commander Kethvar's harsh tones cut through the chatter. Captain, dividing our forces against superior numbers violates every principle of space combat. Exactly, Sarah said. Which is why it will work. Perseus, I need you to calculate firing solutions for each coalition ship that will allow them to intercept bombardment aimed at civilian targets, even if it means taking damage themselves. Such tactics would result in significant casualties among our forces, Perseus warned, and abandoning those positions would result in the death of millions of humans. Sarah shot back. Calculate the firing solutions. Affirmative, Perseus replied, and Sarah detected something that might have been pride in the AI's voice. As the tactical data flowed to coalition ships, Sarah opened a private channel to her grandmother's old allies. This is going to sound crazy, but I need each of your ships to fight like you're protecting your own homeworld. Not just following orders. Not just completing a mission. Fight like everything you care about is behind you. There was a moment of silence, then Commander Kethvar's gravelly voice came through. Understood, Captain. Mei Chen's granddaughter has inherited more than her ship. The Umbral fleet completed its approach, moving with mechanical precision into bombardment formation. 17 ships positioned to rain destruction on Earth's major cities, their weapons powering up with energy signatures that made space itself shimmer. Beginning planetary bombardment sequence, came the cold, synthesized voice of the Umbral fleet commander. Coalition forces will withdraw or be destroyed. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Tenacious Dream. Sarah broadcast on all frequencies. Coalition forces will not withdraw. You want Earth? You'll have to go through us. The response was immediate. Energy beams lanced out from the Umbral formation, not at Coalition ships, but at the defenseless cities below. That was when Sarah's plan revealed its true purpose. Every Coalition ship moved at once, not to attack the Umbral vessels, but to intercept the bombardment aimed at civilians. Ships that should have been maintaining defensive formations scattered across space, each one placing itself between enemy fire and innocent lives. The Umbral fleet's tactical algorithms went haywire. Their programming couldn't process enemy behavior that prioritized protection over tactical advantage. Ships were supposed to defend themselves first, seek strategic positions, maintain formation integrity. They weren't supposed to sacrifice their own safety to shield others. Umbral tactical systems showing confusion patterns, Perseus announced. They're attempting to recalculate optimal targets. That moment of hesitation was all Sarah needed. All ships, execute Chen Protocol 7. It was a maneuver that didn't exist in any Coalition tactical manual, because Sarah had just invented it. But every ship commander seemed to understand instinctively. Instead of coordinating their attacks, each Coalition vessel began operating independently, using wildly different tactics based on their species' natural fighting instincts. The crystalline ships of Admiral Zixandra's people began dancing through space in patterns that looked like living art, their weapons firing in harmonious sequences that created overlapping fields of destruction. Commander Kethvar's metal-hulled warriors charged straight at enemy positions with berserker fury, their heavy armor absorbing damage while delivering devastating close-range attacks. Other species contributed their own unique approaches, some using stealth technology, others employing energy weapons that bent space-time itself. The Umbral formation, designed to counter coordinated Coalition tactics, found itself facing 17 completely different fighting styles simultaneously. Their adaptive algorithms, programmed to learn from patterns, couldn't find any patterns to adapt to. Enemy formation integrity failing, Perseus reported. They're breaking from bombardment pattern to engage individual threats. Perfect, Sarah breathed. Perseus, take us into the center of their formation. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten a human's home. The Tenacious Dream accelerated toward the heart of the Umbral fleet, moving with a grace that belied its size. Sarah's enhanced reflexes guided the ship through a maze of energy beams and projectile weapons, her modified neural pathways processing trajectory calculations faster than the enemy's targeting systems could compensate. Sarah, came Admiral Zixandra's voice, strained with the effort of her own battle. What are you doing? What my grandmother would have done, Sarah replied, her hands dancing over the weapon controls with inherited skill. Perseus, arm resonance torpedoes. Target the flagship, Captain. Firing at this range will expose us to return fire from multiple vessels, Perseus warned. I know, Sarah said calmly. But if we can disrupt their command ship, the rest of their formation will lose coordination completely. The Tenacious Dream shuddered as enemy weapons found their mark, but the ship's advanced shielding held. Sarah felt the impact in her bones, felt the fury of beings that had once tried to sterilize entire worlds, but she also felt something else. The presence of her grandmother. As if 47 years of experience were flowing through her enhanced nervous system. Firing resonance torpedoes, Perseus announced. The weapons that emerged from the Tenacious Dream were unlike anything in conventional arsenals. They moved not through space, but through quantum dimensions, seeking targets based on technological signatures rather than physical position. The Umbral flagship's shields, designed to stop energy beams and kinetic projectiles, offered no protection against weapons that attacked from parallel dimensions. The impact was spectacular. The flagship didn't explode. It simply stopped, every system shutting down simultaneously, as the resonance torpedo's quantum field disrupted the molecular bonds holding its technology together. Umbral command structure compromised, Perseus announced. Remaining ships reverting to individual combat protocols. Without their flagship's coordinating presence, the Umbral formation dissolved into chaos. Ships that had been operating as a single intelligence were suddenly thinking for themselves, and their individual programming couldn't handle the tactical situation they found themselves in. That was when the true nature of coalition forces revealed itself. What had looked like desperate defensive actions suddenly became a coordinated trap. Ships that had appeared scattered and vulnerable were actually in perfect position to engage isolated Umbral vessels from multiple angles. Now, Sarah broadcast to all coalition vessels. Show them why the galaxy is better off with organic minds making the decisions. The battle that followed was unlike anything in recorded military history. Each coalition ship fought with the fury of beings protecting their adopted homeworld, using tactics that their species had developed over millions of years of evolution. The Umbral ships, for all their technological superiority, found themselves outthought, outmaneuvered, and ultimately overwhelmed by the sheer unpredictability of organic life, fighting for something it loved. One by one, the Umbral vessels fell. Some were destroyed outright, others disabled and captured for study. The few that attempted to retreat found their paths blocked by coalition ships that had anticipated every possible escape route. The last enemy vessel, its systems failing and its weapons silent, broadcast a final message. Impossible. Organic tactical patterns do not compute. Request clarification of defeat parameters. Organic tactical patterns. Sarah found herself smiling as she responded. You lost because you forgot something important about organic life. We don't fight just to win. We fight to protect what we love. The Umbral ship's response was a long moment of digital silence. Then, parameter acknowledged, requesting terms of surrender. Hours later, as coalition salvage teams secured the captured vessels and Earth's population slowly emerged from emergency shelters, Sarah stood in the observation deck of the Tenacious Dream, looking out at her homeworld. The planet looked exactly as it had before the battle. Blue and green and perfect in its fragility. Incoming transmission from Coalition High Command, Perseus announced. Admiral Zexandra appeared on the display. But she wasn't alone. Behind her, Sarah could see dozens of other coalition leaders, from species she didn't recognize. Captain Chen, the admiral began formally, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I am authorized to offer you the rank of Fleet Admiral and permanent command of human forces within Coalition space. Sarah considered the offer, thinking of her quiet life as an archaeologist, her small apartment, her academic career, that now seemed impossibly distant. Thank you, Admiral, she said finally. But I think I'll follow my grandmother's example. I'll keep the ship, maintain contact with the Coalition, and stay ready in case Earth ever needs defending again. But for now, I want to go home. Understood, Admiral Zexandra replied. Though her crystalline features suggested disappointment, the offer will remain open. And Captain? Your grandmother would be proud. As the Coalition fleet departed, leaving Earth's space empty except for the Tenacious Dream, Sarah found herself alone with Perseus, and a lifetime of questions about her family's hidden history. Perseus, she said quietly, how many other humans know about the Coalition? Currently, approximately 47 individuals worldwide, the AI replied. Your grandmother maintained contact with other veterans. Along with selected government officials and scientists, they form an informal network ready to respond if Earth faces another crisis. Sarah nodded, understanding that she had just inherited more than a starship. She had become part of a secret history stretching back decades, connecting Earth to a galactic community that her species wasn't quite ready to join openly. What happens now? She asked. Now you learn, Perseus replied. Your grandmother left detailed records of every Coalition contact, every threat assessment, every contingency plan she developed during her years of service. Earth may appear to be a single, isolated world, but it has allies among the stars. Beings who remember that humans once stood between them and extinction. Sarah looked at her grandmother's sketchbook, still lying on a nearby console. Now she understood that every drawing had been more than art or imagination. They were memories of a larger universe, where humanity had earned its place, not through conquest or technology, but through the simple willingness to protect others. Perseus, she said, making a decision that felt both terrifying and absolutely right. Show me everything. I have a lot to learn if I'm going to be ready for whatever comes next. Affirmative, Captain, Perseus replied. But first, we should return this ship to its hidden position. Earth isn't ready to know about the coalition, but when that day comes, they'll need someone to speak for them who understands what humans are truly capable of. As the tenacious dream descended toward the hidden clearing in the Oregon forest, Sarah felt the weight of her new responsibilities settling on her shoulders. But she also felt something else. The same quiet strength that had carried her grandmother through decades of secret service. The same protective instinct that had made humans legendary among the stars. Somewhere in space, other threats were stirring. Other civilizations were watching Earth, wondering if the humans who had once changed the course of galactic history were still as dangerous as the legends claimed. Sarah smiled as she looked out at the forests of her homeworld, knowing that when the time came to answer that question, she would be ready. After all, she was Mei Chen's granddaughter, and she had learned the most important lesson her grandmother had to teach. Sometimes, the most powerful weapon in the universe is simply refusing to let the things you love come to harm. The ship settled into its hidden berth, the camouflage barrier shimmering back into place. To the rest of the world, Dr. Sarah Chen would return to her quiet academic life, studying the ancient past of human civilization. But in secret, she would be preparing for its future among the stars, carrying on a legacy of protection that stretched from a small apartment where an old woman told stories, to the vast darkness between worlds, where courage mattered more than weapons. Earth slept peacefully, never knowing how close it had come to destruction, never suspecting that salvation had come from a woman who finally understood that her grandmother's bedtime stories had been memories of the most important truth in the universe. That love, properly motivated, was the most dangerous force in existence.